Hello, how are you? You might have noticed that during the pandemic, the economic downturn, a lot of industries have been hit pretty bad. But one industry seems to have done okay, the porn industry. It's boomed. Now, I don't know what it is about our society that we spend so much time looking rather than doing, and it might be a sign of a problem. I know sex is a primal urge. It's happening all the time here. Listen to the flirtation this morning as the sun comes up. You can see over there the blossoms ready to start flirting with the other blossoms. Perhaps living with nature is what helps us see the passions of life in a more gentle, less lascivious way. It seems that sex, like life, is more than just a primal urge for humans. It can be so much more. So what is it about life and sex? Or really, what is it about life that we can learn to help us see the world in a fuller way? Macbeth says, "Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and rests his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It's a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing." Bob Marley is introspective and maybe a bit more helpful. Open your eyes, look within. Are you satisfied with the life you're living? I think life is a human concept. We use the word as the opposite to death. It's not a universal concept. We need to focus on the idea of death to survive, and that's how we define life. It's that the fear of death is core to our desire to live. It gives us the power to survive when we're pushed to the edge. Most of us have a biological perspective on life. It's got something to do with metabolism or growth and reproduction, of course, getting back to it. But life is a word, an idea whose meaning's been influenced by the human ego. And that meaning is now being challenged by the perspective we can see thanks to the advances of knowledge, thanks to the critical thinking brought on by science. Now, if you step back and can recognize the pattern of existence, the cycle of life, which we spoke about last week, well, you know then that death is a part of life. Again, you can see it here. That's the compost from last year. Right, that's dead vegetables. And these dead vegetables are going to be used to grow those cabbages and those broad beans. And underneath the trees behind me, the leaves fall and provide some nutrition. And those trees have been there for over 100 years. Even though we cut them in half, well, much more than half, cut them by 80%. So, death is a part of life. They're connected. And when you start to realize that, you start to see life as everything. You start to see life as existence. Life is existence. Life is everything. And by the way, that means that our old friend Corona is a part of life too, isn't it? Now, some people have a debate about viruses, right? Whether they're proper living cells in the biological sense of it. But more and more people are realizing that integration, that interconnection, that makes them a part of life. Now, we can also realize that our own bodies, the cells in our bodies at least, more than half are foreign residents, bacteria, fungi, archaea, which reside in our body and help us thrive, prosper. They all have DNA as well. So this whole cycle of life is existence. We're part of it, and so is everything out there, which we might consider to be dead, but is actually a part of that cycle, a part of life. Now, fundamental to the process of existence is energy. E equals mc squared. Energy and matter, space and time. And so that leads me to think that, well, the universe is combusting. It's a kind of burning up. It's respiring. Respiration is a kind of combustion, a kind of burning. So maybe the universe is having a breath. In, out. Big Bang, to the expansion of the universe, to the contraction of the universe, and then we'll see. That's an idea. And those ideas are obviously difficult to consider, especially since we grew up in a much more restricted culture where we had linear thinking, hierarchical ideas, and a closed mentality, a human-centric world. And that's beginning to change as we appreciate the idea again, as we once did, once upon a time, when we lived much closer to nature, that we're all a part of the same existence, the same life. So, for humans, what is life? Is it a story? Once upon a time, there was a man and a woman and an apple tree. Is it about reproduction, sex? I'm not sure about that. Does it have meaning? Some say that the basic unit of existence is information. I'm not sure I buy that. But that's what a lot of the physicists are playing with now. Basic unit of existence is information or data. I'm not so sure about that. The idea is that the universe might be organizing information so that it can understand itself. I think that makes a bit of sense in terms of the emergence of consciousness. Once upon a time we weren't aware so much of ourselves. We were monkeys, and prior to that bacteria. Now we can see ourselves, and maybe that process will extend into the universe, and the universe will eventually recognize itself. Perhaps that will be the end of the first inhale. That would reflect the pattern of life that we see all around us and in ourselves. Only consciousness can recognize itself. Right? So the universe can't recognize itself because it doesn't have consciousness. If we're conscious, we know we're conscious. That's the nature of consciousness. Self-recognition, it's taking it to the next level. And as humanity becomes conscious, not us as individuals, we're all conscious, but as the species becomes conscious, we're starting to recognize ourselves, we're starting to see humanity from the outside, see the effect that humanity has on the planet, see the effect that we have as a whole unit, and our subunits, communities, cultures, families even. We accept that we're disposable as we start to see us as a whole. Right? We'll realize that an individual one of us is not important to the survival of the species. What's much more important that all of the individual units in the species help one another for the species to survive. And because humanity has a much greater metacognition, we'll also see that connection with the rest of life around us, the rest of existence, the rest of nature. We'll see that it is important for our existence. And so then we'll start to appreciate that connection as a species. Now, that's what's going on today. I think that as we begin to see ourselves from the outside, as we start to recognize ourselves as humanity, as the humanity as the consciousness of humanity manifests, we will start to improve our appreciation of one another, our facility to connect our minds, to connect in the metaphysical. That means that we will have a sense of one another's metaphysical state, and not just one another, humans, hominids, but also other animals, the primates, the mammals, the birds, and so on. And I think we'll also start to feel the planet It's a strange thing, but over the years, as I've got closer and closer to nature, I almost feel as if I can feel the pain of the planet getting worse and worse each year. And sometimes when I'm out here, I reflect on how the planet might feel. Anyway, I don't think it likes being abused, and I think it feels a lot better when we live with the planet. And of course, for our own living, for us to be human, yes, we need the security of a roof over our heads, and we need the safety of food. But just to survive, like the universe, we need to breathe. So yes, I think life is about a breath. And it reinforces for me the idea that breathing is a jolly good idea. Thanks. See you soon. Goodbye.